I think milestones, some of them we've already covered slightly, listening to your customer, paying attention to like when you start to see a little bit of spill. I think those are big milestones. Like if I was ever to do this again or consult or help somebody, it's like, look, hey, we're going to target this dude right here. And when all of a sudden we see Bob over here who we didn't target buying our product, milestone, like check, like that's a big deal.
Welcome to the Backcountry Marketing Podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Jonathan McKenzie. He is one of the co-founders of Turtlebox Audio. Jonathan, how are you?
I'm good. Cole, thank you for having me, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for taking the time. How's your day going?
Off to a great start, man. It is an unusually incredible day in Houston. Looking out, it's like 65 degrees and bluebird skies, and I'm wondering why I'm in an office. So I need to go get on a boat or something today.
You mean starting your own business hasn't given you all the freedom of time that you thought it might?
Oh man, that's good. We chased that rabbit for a while. Yes, it has. It's given me a lot of freedom, but yes, it is still work. We still have to come in here and bang stuff out. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. It sounds like things are moving fast and furious down there. Today, we're going to be talking about brand maturity. And Jonathan, when we connected earlier, you posed this question, and this is kind of what prompted us to think about this idea. You said, when does a brand reach the maturity level to talk less about the product and talk more about the experience? And I think this is a question that a lot of brands think about, and I know you spend a lot of time thinking about this for yourself and for the company. And so folks, if you want to kind of get a deep dive into this idea of brand maturity and trying to understand how Jonathan and the team at Turtlebox think about this idea, I'd encourage you to stick around for this episode. It's going to be fun. Before we dive in though, Jonathan, I would love if you could introduce yourself, introduce Turtlebox and what you guys do.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you've already said it, but I am Jonathan McKenzie, one of 4 co-founders at Turtlebox, and me and my 3 partners, we started this company actually back in 2012 in our garage, kind of a classic entrepreneurial garage story. We were bachelors, living the dream. We were roommates together, and we had a need for a portable speaker that was rugged, waterproof, and loud. And, you think back 10 years and that product didn't exist. And so out of personal need, we kind of dreamt up a speaker that we thought would be great for our needs on the water, living here on the coast in Houston and spending a lot of time on rivers in the area and stuff like that. And so we built this speaker. I should have brought it in here, but I built this speaker. We built the speaker together and took it with us everywhere for like a year and had enough people ask us about it in a year. Like, what is that speaker? Where do I get one? What is it that after about a year, we were all drinking beer in the backyard one night, and I kind of, being the serial entrepreneur of the group, said, "Hey guys, I think this product has legs. Like, why don't we all start a business together?" And in about 30 seconds, like a bunch of young guys, we were like, "Well, yeah, like what do we have to lose? Like, cheers, and what are we going to call it?" And I mean, like 10 seconds later, it was like Reagan, one of our partners, he said, "Let's call it Turtlebox." And cheers again. And so that kicked off like a 5-year period of time where we took this garage made thing and just kept, like, our kitchen back then looked like a bomb making factory, and it was funny. I mean, we were buying speakers and cables and batteries and all this stuff and building stuff in our garage and our kitchen. Found a financial partner during that time, and like I said, it took us about 5 years to get from our garage to a commercially viable product, which we then launched in 2018. And so we are just over a 4-year-old company as far as sales go. And we've seen, pretty incredible, pretty humbling year-over-year growth over the last 4 years. This last year in particular was a really great year for us. And so here we are. That's the quick and dirty Turtlebox story, I guess.
And what's your role with the company?
Yeah, so I like to tell people I am co-founder and co-CMO. Me and Will Bradley, one of my other partners, we kind of tag team the chief marketing officer role, both being more of the creative-minded two in the group. and we work real well together as a team, kind of breaking apart the creative direction of this company. So
Awesome. And just so folks have an idea of kind of some of the gritty details of the company, could you kind of fill us in on team size, where you guys distribute, things like that?
yeah, sure. So I think the last time I counted, I think our team is up to about 18 now. Um, some of those are part-time kind of contract people, but it's crazy. I look out in our office and our warehouse, and it's just always people, and I'm still getting used to that. But yeah, so about 17 or 18, I think, is our team. Um, Primary distribution channels are our website, Amazon, and then dealers. So about 75% of our business is direct to consumer through our website and Amazon, about 25 to 30% through dealers. Um, and then we see one of our largest growth opportunities actually is in the dealer network. And so that's a big initiative this year is growing our dealer footprint.
Gotcha. And so when you think about the brand as one of the CMOs, how do you describe the brand? Like, for people who aren't familiar with it, if you could kind of describe some of the vision behind it, I think that would help before we dive a little deeper.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of my quick pitches on Turtlebox is I like to tell people that Turtlebox is in the business of elevating outdoor experiences. I like to say that an otherwise normal moment can become legendary with the right soundtrack. And so, for me, actually, all of us we're all dads. We have kids, and it's like the great example is you're spending time on the back porch with your family, cooking hamburgers or something, and that moment could be great. And maybe normal. But then maybe the right song comes on, right? And your kids start dancing. And now like a memory forms in your mind. And I'll never forget that moment, that Sunday, that afternoon. It was a beautiful day. The birds were singing, turtle boxes were blaring, we're cooking burgers, and it was just this special moment, right? So that's how I like to portray, like at a very simple level, what Turtlebox is and why we're doing this. It's a very simple product. It can be used, in 1,000 different venues and ways. Um, but yeah, that's kind of why we did it. We saw a hole in the market based on other product offerings, and then being in the business of really elevating outdoor experiences. Giving people the opportunity to have music wherever and whenever they want to at the volume that they want it.
So when you think about brand maturity, when I think anyone thinks about brand maturity, oftentimes we look at the industry and it's very easy to point out the brands that are quote unquote mature. And like we use the examples, the frequent examples, like the Apples of the world, the Patagonias, the Yetis of the world. And it's very easy, and it happens all the time on this show, where we compare ourselves or we analyze these very mature, very established brands, and then we start to try to figure out how do we become them, or what can we learn from them and apply to our own situation. When you think about brand maturity and kind of this idea of spectrum, I guess I'm curious first to hear what your definition of brand maturity is, and maybe that's an evolving definition, but how do you think about it today?
Yeah, no, great question and great lead in because part of my answer is that your definition of maturity is highly comparative um, in nature, right? And so, um, Turtlebox is incredibly mature compared to a guy that maybe is thinking about starting a company, right? Like he's in an ideation phase, right? And is where on the other hand, we'd be very immature compared to, you know, somebody, Apple or Google, right? Or, somebody more in our category like a Yeti. I do think of maturity as an evolving thing. Um, I do think that it has to be kind of, bifurcated and into where, like in some ways, we are very mature as a brand, and in other ways, there's always going to be room for growth. And this kind of falls back to kind of almost a way of living, like a way of thinking that, like personally, and something I try and tell my kids all the time. A good example would be is I took my son skiing for the first time 2 years ago when he was 4, and he did great. Like he picked it up really fast. Like I actually used to be a ski instructor a long time ago, and so like I took just great joy in teaching my son how to ski. And I'll never forget it. we were about 3 days into our trip. He was really starting to get it, feeling a little confident, just like he can literally stand on two skis and go down the mountain and not crash, right? So he's feeling great. And we're riding on the ski lift, and he kind of points over to a run or see somebody doing that. And he's like, I said, his name's Jonathan. I said, Junior, what do you think about that guy over there? And he goes, oh, or what do you think about that run? He was like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. And I said, are you sure about that? Like, he goes, oh, no, because I know how to ski. Like, I know how to ski, Dad. And I took the moment as a good dad, like, all right, there's a teaching opportunity here. Like I said, Jonathan, um, your dad's been skiing for over 30 years, and I'm still learning how to ski. Like, there are new things I learn every time that I go skiing. And I can always look to somebody that's better than me and say, what can I learn from that guy? Wow, man, his form is perfect, or, blah, 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 right? And so in life, in it's my personal life, I view as like never reaching some level of complete maturity or complete success or complete arrival, right? Like, there's always going to be something more to learn. And so I definitely view our brand and Turtlebox in that same light, that I want to be proud of what we've accomplished, and not, hey, we did this. Like, this is good. Hey, we reached a metric, or, we hit a goal, or, we finished that project. Wow, like, that felt good. All right, what else can we learn? Where else can we grow? And so when it comes to defining some level of maturity, like I was telling you earlier, I think you have to be a really good listener. Listen to your customer. And so we try and do that a lot here. Uh, we were very fortunate. I think we have incredible customers, and maybe this is somewhat universally true, like in the nature of just consumers today. But consumers want to feel connected to brands. I think that's a big part of consumption today. And so, I mean, it cracks me up, like the way that people reach out to us through customer service, or, through social channels, or whatever it is. And they'll send us emails or leave us voicemail. It's like we're their best friend, and like they know us or something, and they have no idea who we are. And that's incredible to me, that people take time out of their day to send an email or make a phone call and tell us something that they love about our product, or where they used it, or what they did with it, or how they impressed their buddy, or something like that. And man, we pay attention to that stuff, because what and this is where I'm getting to, like, where I think the maturity is that when we started this company, we said, hey, we are going to ruthlessly pursue the sportsman. We think that is a powerful consumer. We're going after hunt and fish. That's going to be our bread and butter. And we did that for 1,000 different reasons that we can, dive into later if you want to. But what we're starting to hear from our customers is, like, all the ways people are using it that have absolutely nothing to do with hunt and fish. Like Little League Baseball and sand volleyball, and, even like running events, and, like you can plug a microphone into the Turtlebox, and just the creative things that people have sent us pictures of them strapped to jet skis, and like tractors, and, riding lawnmowers, and like just funny stuff, and so to me, that represents something that a lot of marketers call spill, where you target an audience with great specificity, and then allow some overflow from that into tertiary markets, right? And so I think spill, maybe we could define spill, when you start to see spill in your brand and in your product, that can be a little bit of a feather in your cap, like, oh, wow, okay, like, this is working. That does feel like some level of brand maturity. You got your skis under you. You can literally get down the mountain. And so, but again, and so that's part of listening to the customer. The other side of marketing is definitely being a great communicator and telling the customer, what you want them to know about. And that's usually where I tend to feel like I'm not sure that I'm ever going to feel like there yet on that side. it's like instant feedback, right? When you hear from a customer, hey, you're doing something great, or spill is taking place. On the other side, when you're constantly thinking about what message you want to communicate to your customer base, um, that part of it is always evolving. Like, because slogans and messages and brand image do change over time. And like I use the example of Yeti, um, where they started out telling their customer what their product is, right? Like wildly stronger, keeps ice longer. We make a cooler, it's super tough and durable, and it keeps stuff cold. You got to know that. If you don't know that, you're not going to understand what we're doing. To, now their primary slogan is built for the wild. So, not telling you anything about their product. I mean, they kind of are, like it's built for the wild, but they're putting wild places in your mind and saying, take our products into these places and go live some adventurous lifestyle, right? Um, and I wouldn't be surprised if we look back 10 years from now and that message will change again at some point. Like it's kind of an always, very very few companies are going to have one slogan for 100 years or one primary message for 100 years. It's going to evolve. And so that's where I always see us is like, we will evolve with that as well, but there's always going to be room for growth and further maturation. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
So yeah, this is interesting. Have you ever heard of this guy? His name is Marty Neumeier. He's a kind of a branding expert. He's written a couple books. Actually, I think 3 books. Have you heard of this? Have you heard of him before?
Marty Neumeier. No.
Yeah. So I'd highly recommend his stuff. He's got a bunch of episodes and podcasts and YouTube videos out. But he has this idea, and it ties into what you're talking about a little bit. I'm curious to hear your reaction. So he's talking about the difference in branding from, let's say, 20 years ago to branding today. And he says branding back in the day, however, 20 years ago or whatever, companies would create a brand which would then attract customers. And he says today it's different. Companies create customers, and those customers end up building the brand. And I don't know, I'm curious how you react to that.
That's interesting. So say that again. Say that quote again.
Yeah. So companies, there's 2 models.
Companies used to create
a brand which attracts customers. Yep. And then this new format, company creates customers, and those customers end up building the brand.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's super thought provoking. So I'll tell you what it was like for us. I mean, I kind of think we might have done it the old school way. It just maybe thinking out loud here, but that we built a product, and we spent a lot of time developing our product, and we kind of went into this with the mentality that we're all a bunch of dummies who know nothing about consumer products. We do not come from this world. We're in it now. We're all we're 100% in. We come here every day and quit our jobs and all that stuff. But 2 of us were from the energy sector and 2 of us from the real estate sector. And so we approached it with like, we don't know what the heck we're doing. So, we're going to do it the best we can. And one of the things that we set out to do, and I think we did it very well, is we said, hey, we're going to make our product so good that it's just hard to, one, poke holes in it, like, oh, that thing's, garbage, or it doesn't work the way they say it works, or, whatever. And that we're going to create viral customers with a great product. That by putting something so robust in the hands of the average consumer, they're not going to be able to help themselves, but go tell their buddy about it. And so that was a little bit of our philosophy going into all of this, that, hey, let's build a great product, which did eventually morph into, we need to build a great brand. And when we put that great brand and that great product in a customer's hands, they're going to go become like a force to be reckoned with on behalf of our company and our brand. Um, the and so I do kind of feel like we built a brand uh, to attract customers. I do feel like we did that. Um, yeah, I guess that's kind of my thought on that.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking about spill, and as you're starting to realize, oh, maybe our core demographic isn't our only demographic of who makes up our brand, I guess that's where I'm thinking about, like, maybe now your customers are helping create your brand, and now you are
Okay, well, yeah,
more than just
then that's a great illustration of that. So maybe it's a little bit of both. Like I'm a big believer in just balance in life. Like I do think the older I get, the more mature I get, the more that I was a very black and white and still am in a lot of ways. Like I'm very, very dogmatic, like, one or the other, with a lot of things in life. And I'm fine, with people being that way, or I'm fine with myself being that way in some ways. But I will say the older I get, I'm learning more and more about balance in that there's more ways to do it than one. And um, uh, you know, something that this may be interesting. I was a This may not even be like popular, but I used to be a really avid reader, and um, I still am to a certain degree. I'm very picky about what I read. And Like it's interesting, like Marty Newmeyer, like I am going to go look him up, and I love kind of getting little tidbits and stuff like that. But at some point, I kind of came to this conclusion. And this is not a prideful conclusion. I think it's an honest. I think it's like intellectually honest that like nobody has written a book about Turtlebox. Um, and In fact, I think a little bit of this conclusion hit me when we had our first kid. Because my wife is kind of the opposite. Like, man, she wants to read like every parenting book and like make sure we're doing it right, and like, oh my God, he's not sleeping, and why is he not sleeping, and blah 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 blah, right? And I'm like, baby, nobody has written a book about Jonathan Jr. Like, that kid is unique and special in every way possible, and so it's our goal as parents to just be very like intentional with our kids and learn from them, see what they need, see how to help, and be creative, right? Like I'm going to creatively approach my son. I have two boys now. I'm going to creatively approach my sons and be a great dad to them. Like I feel like I'm totally equipped to be a great dad, and give them what they need. And so I see the same thing in business sometimes when it feels like maybe the the easy thing to do is to go read another business book, and it maybe makes you feel like, oh, this is gonna work for us, like, and I think one thing I have definitively learned, and I've learned this from another really really good buddy of mine named Patrick Cadu, who is another e-commerce startup guy, who sold his business recently, and we were talking marketing stuff back in the day, and he was just like, Jonathan, there is no silver bullet. Like, it does not exist. There's a lot of marketing companies and a lot of marketing books that want to make it seem like there is a silver bullet out there, that if you just do this, all of a sudden, the sales just come flowing in, right? And growth happens. And that is very, very true. Like, there is no silver bullet. Nobody's written a book about Turtlebox. Nobody's written a book about Yeti, like those guys were very, very perceptive to the market, to their brand, to their customer, and said, okay, how are we going to keep morphing and positioning things and coming at this with a creative parenting approach, to steward this brand, this resource, in a way that does promote growth. And so that's a little bit of how I wake up every morning, is like, all right, what are we going to do with Turtlebox today? Like, how else can we reach new ears, new eyes in a creative way? And that's not to say at all, like, I don't ever want to be viewed as this guy that's like, oh no, I don't, I don't need to know what the experts are doing. Like, no, I need to know what all the experts are doing. Like, trust me, I'm still a dummy. But uh, I do think that if you put too much stake in what other people are doing, it can distract you from what's happening right in front of you, and just trust like, hey, look, I got a brain. I can sort this out, and let's do this together. And that also comes from the fact that I'm not a sole founder, which I'm really really thankful for. Having four partners is the one of the greatest and hardest things that's ever happened to me. And um, you know, we I mean, we have filtered every decision of this company through the opinion of four, very strong-willed men, and that's hard. Like that makes things hard sometimes and slow, and but it also makes things good. Like having other opinions, like something that I would really encourage, any marketer that doesn't have a good team, like get a good team, or get a get some type of influence outside of yourself, or you're going to make some really poor decisions, I think. So having my partners, and then now even as our team grows, like we're a very open door around here. Like hey guys, we're thinking about doing blah blah blah. Anybody think that's cool? And they're like, that idea sucks. Like don't do that. So like that kind of stuff happens all the time around here. So
It's interesting that so what you're describing is like trying to find the silver bullet, or your journey of like realizing there is no silver bullet. Seems very healthy, and it's one I can relate to significantly because I used to be and still am very black and white, and I'm like, what is the right way to host a podcast?
yeah,
And like I'm sure I've Googled that at one point.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a difficult thing to learn that there is no right way. You
that's
kind of
right.
just have to piece together various ideas, take it all with a grain of salt, and then figure out how to do it for yourself. So I'm glad that you're figuring it out from one black and white person to another.
It's a process, man. It's a
So
process.
if you were to think about, and this is kind of a vague question because as we've established, the spectrum is always evolving when we're talking about brand maturity. But if you had to define loose milestones and categorize, let's say, an entry level maturity to like an intermediate to an advanced to an expert, how would you think about those different milestones, and when might one brand move from one rung on the ladder to the next?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So help me if I get off track, but I think milestones, some of them we've already covered slightly. Listening to your customer, paying attention to like when you start to see a little bit of spill. I think those are big milestones. Like if I was ever to do this again, or consult, or help somebody, it's like, look, hey, we're going to target this dude right here, and when all of a sudden we see Bob over here who we didn't target buying our product, milestone, like check. Like that's a big deal. Um, the other big deal would be, I think, the transition of messaging, the transition in voice from telling your consumer what your product is to telling them how they need to feel when they're using your product. I think that to me, like that's kind of my next milestone a little bit, like something that I'm there's a very fine line there, and there's a lot of timing involved. But I'm looking forward to when Turtlebox eventually grows out of, for us right now, it's loud outdoor audio. Like that's kind of our main slogan. It's loud outdoor audio. That's Turtlebox. I'm looking forward to one day when like Nike. Like Nike's a great example of this. Like just do it. Like what? Like that doesn't have anything to do with shoes. you know. Um and that's it from a marketing perspective. Like, man, that like fires me up. I'm like, yes, dude, when you can have a slogan for your company that has nothing to do with your product, like you have definitely made it. Like you're Nike, like just do it. You're like, what does that even mean? I don't just go do something, like put some shoes on and go do it. Um, and so when I think about like what I want or what we want our customers to feel when they experience Turtlebox. The other main slogan that we have, I don't even know if I can call it a slogan or not, but is live free. And so you'll see live free on a lot of our, in fact, it's on my hat, live free. You'll see live free on a lot of our marketing material. And so what does excite me about our company and our marketing right now is that we're kind of doing both at the same time, which kind of goes back to like nobody's written a book about Turtlebox. Like, like we're doing them both at the same time, kind of. And so living freely, to give it a little longer word, is something that we all care about deeply. We care about it on the personal level, and then we care about it for our customers also. And so when I say Turtlebox is in the business of elevating outdoor experiences, what I really mean is by giving a customer a product that can elevate a normal moment into a legendary moment, I believe I'm helping you live freely. I'm helping you forget about maybe a worry that you have at the office, right? Or just anything, right? Anything that could be dragging you down, right? Like anything that is sucking life from you is keeping you from living freely. And so living freely for us, like actually goes like live free, that slogan, that came before Turtlebox. The four of us were living in this bachelor pad together, all looking forward to getting married one day and meeting the girl and, all that stuff. And, if you can think back on that season of life, for anybody listening, or if you're in that season of life, like that's a stressful season, where you're like, you're going on dates and you're like, it's just like awkward sometimes. And it's getting infinitely more awkward as, digital stuff and social media changes. Like I can't imagine, like doing all that junk right now. I'm so thankful that I'm married. But we started saying to each other, like, hey man, just live free. Like just live free, which basically meant like, hey, just relax. Like, like don't worry so much about what other people think of you. Like, don't worry so much about what that girl thinks of you or what your boss says about you or whatever. Like, you're a wonderful man for 1,000 reasons other than XYZ. Okay. So let's commit as a group to live freely, to pursue good things that bring us life. And we're just going to forget about all the other stuff. And dude, we started doing that. And I mean, it literally changed our life. Like Turtlebox was born out of that. And so that message of live free is super powerful to us because it changed our lives. And we also saw a lot of people really like, it was contagious. It was like about a lot of community around us started seeing how we were living and was like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I need to get to know these guys, or we need to hang out with them, or yeah, let's go out on there. Like we had a sailboat together. The four of us owned a dumpy 1972 29-foot sailboat. And man, every weekend you could find us on our boat. And that is not a plug for like, we were so rich, we owned a sailboat. No. The boat cost us $9,000. Okay. Split 4 ways for a bunch of bachelors. Right. So that's where we were living free, man. And so I am very proud of us as a company. As I look around on a lot of our packaging in here, and like you can see live free, you can see listen louder, you can see loud outdoor audio. But as our messaging continues to grow, I want to see more and more emphasis on the way we want our customers living, as opposed to more and more messaging about, how much power our speaker produces or how long's the battery life, or, like those specs matter. Okay. But at some point as the brand grows, and again, going back to listening to your customer, I have seen our customers go from, in some ways, like you still have this, it all depends on the life cycle of the customer, but like where customers are just super, super dialed in on like, okay, now tell me again, like how loud is it? And tell me again, like how long does the battery last? Okay, to other guys, like literally a guy walked in our office an hour ago and he was like, hello? And he was like, it was kind of funny because I gave you the little tour earlier. He kind of walked in, and he goes, hello? And I go, what's up? He goes, oh, I think I'm in the wrong place. And I was like, well, where do you think you're supposed to be? And he goes, I was hoping to buy a Turtlebox. And I was like, oh, no, you're in the right place. This is actually headquarters. This is not a retail location. Like he thought it was a retail location or something on Google. And I said, no, come on in, man. Like, what can I do for you? Shook his hand, told me his name. And he was a perfect example of a guy who, like, he could have cared less what the specs were on our speaker and on the battery and blah, blah, blah. He walked in there and he goes, dude, all of my hunting buddies, all of my ranch buddies, they've got these things. Like, I got to get one. Like, you guys are doing the right thing on the lifestyle side of things. Basically, what he was saying to us is like, I just can't handle it anymore. Like, I've seen too many cool people using this and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, no, like that dude, he's ready to go live free with his Turtlebox. And so I can't remember if I went too far off on a tangent there. So please reel me back in if I did or did not answer your question.
No, you're good. So to follow up, how do you, and this gets back to your root question, which is how do you know when your brand is ready to stop talking about the product and start talking about the experience? Like, obviously there is no line in the sand. It's more of a transition period, I guess we could call it. But how do you, in a simple way, like how do you know when your brand is ready? How do you know when your brand has reached that level of maturity?
It's a tough one. Maybe the easiest way to answer that is to say, just test it. Like, we are, especially when it comes to marketing, I'm a huge advocate of testing. And that's the way we try and de-risk a lot of stuff around here is, okay, if somebody comes to us with a new marketing proposal or, whether it's hey, advertise on my podcast or, come do this YouTube thing or, whatever, right? We were in a professional sports stadium yesterday talking to the senior vice president of, sponsorship opportunities. Like, and so we get to look at a lot of things, everything from stuff that costs $1 million, sponsorship dollars to $100, and it's like, we always want to be the kind of marketers that are able to test something within a reasonable budget. And so, when you are able to test, when you're able to start testing that line in the sand of like, okay, I guess this is how I would concretely look at it is like when you're able to go, okay, hey, look, I've got all of this, I look at marketing and advertising as this kind of flywheel, and like just every stuff is in motion, right? You never want to slow that thing down. You want to keep it in motion. And so I almost see it as like starting new flywheels. And so like, look, we've got a flywheel going. And this thing over here is doing what it's supposed to do, and it's producing customers and it's driving brand growth and yada yada yada. Okay, so let's not mess that up. But hey, we've got enough resources to, all right, let's come over here and let's build a newer, smaller flywheel, and let's test things. And look, if this thing falls flat on its face, that is okay. Like we're testing at such a small budget or whatever that or time commitment that we will be able to recover. And so I do think that would be a good, like, super concrete way of looking at that fine line. Like 4 years ago when we were starting this thing, like really starting it up, man, there was zero margin for error. Like, we were so bootstrapped and literally every dollar mattered that it's like, no. Like, we have to be super focused on this. And as you grow, that's never to diminish the value of $1. Like, we still very much care about the value of $1 around here, and we are always making decisions around what that dollar is going to return to the business. But I do think it's wise to start breaking off things and creating test budgets for new marketing campaigns, new strategies, because you never know. Like, you never know. You won't know unless you try. Like, you can put out a new message and it's like magic. Like, I've seen it happen, where you think of a new advertising campaign and it just clicks. Like, and then, man, I've put other advertising campaigns out there, like, and I'm really talking kind of digital marketing right now, but uh, and some of them fall flat on their face. It just doesn't resonate, And what I'm thankful is when we do that, we do it to a small budget. And then when something works, it's like, feed that thing, let's go, let's feed it. So I think that to wrap, like, the concrete thing is are you able to test it in a way that if you lose 100% of your, investment, you're okay. Like, the business continues, right? All right, you've now reached a level of maturity that you can start to at least try and transition from here's what we make to here's how I want you to feel. And that'd be maybe the best way I could answer that right now.
I'm imagining using the example of your son skiing. I'm imagining, that awkward transition from snow plowing to actually making turns and like,
Yeah.
and sometimes like your left foot, you can turn better with your left foot on the
Yes.
outside versus your right
Oh
foot.
yeah.
And like it takes time to make that full transition to a parallel turn. And sometimes even you're on a steep slope and you still pull out the snowplow because that's the best way to get through the moguls or whatever.
And you will never do that if you don't try, right? If you don't test, right? And so, yes, drawing on that skiing example, like, you're not just going to wake up one day and go, oh wow, I can do parallel skiing turns. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, it's a process. And I think that's a big process, is a huge word in my personal life right now. And most of my personal life bleeds over into our company. But like, recognizing how many things in life and in business are a process, like, it just takes time. And a lot of times the name of the game is just survival. Like, it's just like, don't die. Like, you know, um, and so you just got to be wise about, how you spend and how you test, and recognize that it is a process. Like, I was watching this rock climbing documentary the other day, and it was so cool. They got to this scene, they were interviewing like 20 different climbers, and they got to this scene, and they were, you could tell, like, it was the interview style where, like, you couldn't hear the questions of the interviewer, right? You could only hear the answers. And you could tell that they had just asked these climbers, like, what does it feel like when you get to the top? And it was funny because most of these guys kind of started out with pauses, and they were like, well, sometimes it's kind of underwhelming. And they go, sometimes you get to the top and it's cloudy, can't see, you go up there, you snap a couple pictures, and then you're like, all right, well, we got to get back down. These are rock climbers, right? Like, like, think like Free Solo, Alex Honnold, and those guys. And they got to this one guy, and he said, this is so profound. I videoed it with my phone because I was like, I want to remember this. He said, if the point was to get to the top, we would pick an easier way. He's like, if we just wanted to get it, actually, there's some roads that you could just drive a car to the top of this thing. Like, you think about like Half Dome or, something like that. Like, like, no, like tourists, you could get to the top and there's like tourists like taking pictures, right? And you just spent 4 hours, lead climbing, and you got bloody fingers. And it's like, if the point was to get to the top, we would pick an easier way. And I thought that was profound, because these are a bunch of guys that literally their profession in life is rock climber. Like, these are the guys that are better at it than anybody. They have been on more mountaintops than, all of us combined, right? And they're saying the reason we do it is not because the top is so amazing. We do it because the process is so amazing, because the challenge is so amazing. And that really struck me. And I'm starting to see that in my personal life, my family life, and then also in business, where it's like, it's real easy to give into the temptation of like, I can't wait for X. I can't wait for Turtlebox to be blah, blah, blah. Like, mature, more valuable, whatever. I can't wait till we sell the company or whatever it is, right? Like, you can get in this temptation of, I can't wait for fill in the blank. And when you take a step back and you're really honest with yourself, you start to realize that, like, always putting hope in some, or putting contentment in some future moment will never create contentment in your life, and it won't create it in your business either. I use the example of, like, I can't wait for Christmas, and then it's like Christmas gets here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for January because Christmas makes me want to pull my hair out sometimes, and it's like what's funny is I'm bringing this full circle into something that I want to do at Turtlebox is if you don't learn how to, like, take joy in the moment right now, you'll never live a full and satisfying life. It just won't happen. You won't live free. You won't figure that out because you're too busy putting contentment in some future moment. I just can't wait to get to the top of the mountain. It's like, nah, man, like, the process is actually pretty amazing. Like, conquering that challenge is pretty amazing. Like, trying and failing, trying and failing, trying and failing. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you do want to eventually, like, produce some result. I'm not saying that life is all about failing, but the process is amazing. And so, as I've been thinking about this for like 6 months, and really diving into it, and then it was just this rock climbing quote that really, like, it just struck me, um, that, I said, if you're always living seeking contentment in some future moment, you will never find joy in this moment. And I think Turtlebox has the ability to draw people into the moment. And so, like, one of the slogans I'm putting into the future of our company is never miss the moment. Like, one day, I want people to associate our product with never miss the moment. Like, because I have a Turtlebox, I'm going to be more aware of what's going on right now. Like, my senses are going to be heightened because to go back to that moment on the back patio where you're grilling burgers and you're watching your kids and they're dancing. And it's like, dude, like, if you're a dad and you are not totally captivated by that moment, like, God bless you, like, because that moment is special. And so if we can get to the point where, as a company, this connection, when you start thinking about, like, the five senses, like the connection of, like, a visual experience with an audio experience, like, you're going to start creating memories, and that's going to, like, train you, or I hope train people to be more present, like, to be more engaged in the moment in a world where it is just, like, insanely too easy to be disengaged and thinking about something in the future. So to bring it full circle, that's kind of a hope of mine. But process is just critical. And being okay with the process and not trying to force things or rush them or anything like that, which I have a propensity to do. Being super black and white, I'm like, no, like, this is happening now, like, and praise God, I got partners who tell me no. So it works. I think that works in everybody's favor. So.
I love that. It's cool to hear you processing the vision and processing the emotion behind these ideas. What can damage the maturity of a brand?
Great question. Great question. Losing your soul. The classic, oh, those guys are a sellout. It's like that great band, like, that was just, like, making the best music ever. I can't think of an example right now, but I'm sure we could probably come up with one. But they were doing it their way, with their inspiration, with their creativity, the way that they wanted to make the music, and then a record label picked them up and started telling them what to do, and then the soul of their music died. And so we do talk a lot about you know the soul of Turtlebox. Like, we never want to lose the soul. And we've experimented with various ways of tackling our marketing, advertising, creative needs, and one of our constant conclusions is like, we really want to do more and more and more stuff just in house. The more that we outsource things or lean on an agency or anything like that, the more that we find that the soul disappears. Um, that there is a unification going on in this office about the way that we do things, the way that we talk, the way that we communicate, the way that we live our lives, the way that we run our families, the way that we go hunting and fishing and do adventures. Is just like there's a soul, there's a unity to all that. And I think one of the fastest ways to crush a brand is to be a sellout. And um, and so look, we're all capitalists here. Like it's we're in business to make money. I believe very, very strongly in the power of economics, and what a beautiful thing that really is. Like it makes me so happy when I come to work every day and I see guys out in the office that like they're they get to pay their bills and like do fun stuff because they work here. Like that's the power of economics, is seeing this real symbiotic relationship with businesses and brands and workforce and labor growth and stuff like that. And so like yeah, like I don't want to sit here and tell you like we don't care about making money, but that doesn't make one a sellout. Is I think where I was going with that is you can have balance there, and you can be both capitalistic and very um, you know considerate and thoughtful and dedicated to your consumers and kind of your core brand, your core customer. I think abandoning your core customer, like we talk about that a lot. So if you build a brand on the backs of sportsmen, guys who like to hunt and fish, and then all of a sudden you I'm gonna make something up, like you start running a bunch of, I don't know, cheerleading campaigns. Like, you know, quite frankly, cheerleading is a wonderful use case for Turtlebox. Like you got a bunch of girls needing music, to their dance routines and whatnot. It's like, no, that actually makes sense, but like you could really turn off a customer by if you built a business saying, and we do feel like we did this, like if you built a business saying, hey, we built this for you, like, like you were overlooked in the marketplace, and so we built this product for you. We were thinking about you when we made this product. That's the way to get a lot of loyalty, right? That's the way to build loyalty and grow a brand. If all of a sudden you start saying, hey, we also built it for these people over here, that's a really sensitive game, and you got to be real careful with the way that transpires, if that's the path you end up taking. And if you do it the wrong way, I'm not saying you can't do it, because I do think eventually with just growth, like all brands have to start doing that to some level. I don't want to say have to, but timing is everything on that. And that if you do it too early, you will torpedo your brand and really isolate your core customer.
If you had to wrap all this up and summarize it into takeaways for our audience, how do you apply these lessons? How do you apply these thoughts? I think you've given us a nice deep dive into some of these ideas, but if you could just run me through, what are your takeaways? How do you apply this to your day to day? And maybe folks who are listening can consider that for themselves.
Absolutely. So like I'd say on a day to day, I think when it comes to strategy, sitting down, putting pen to paper, organizing your team, remembering that there is no silver bullet, that nobody wrote a book about this company. And so we have to be very thoughtful and creative about the way that we do things. We need to be great listeners, listen to our customers, listen to our dealers, listen to our brand partners and people in the market. What are they saying about us? What are they telling us? How do we learn from that? How do we use it? So no silver bullet, be a good listener. Um, you know, uh, on a daily basis, live free has its application even in the way that we market this company and the way that we build strategy and orchestrate our budget and team and so on and so forth. It's coming in here every day and not living fearfully, like, oh, what's going to happen, like something going to go terribly wrong. It's living very confidently and like, hey, no, we're doing a good job here, and we're going to stay on this path, and it's going to be good, and doesn't mean we're always going to get it right, but we're going to live freely as we do all this. It's not being afraid to test. I think that's a big part of the way we do things here is testing. And surround yourself with good people. Like, feedback loops are dangerous. And I if my partners listen to this, they're probably going to laugh, but like, I love it when people disagree with me. Like, I don't like being the strongest voice in a room and everybody just goes, okay. Like, like, that's dangerous. People disagreeing with you is healthy. And that's where a lot of good ideas come out of. And so we have a great team. And I cannot suggest that enough to anybody who's, in a marketing role or thinking about starting a business, is like, surround yourself with really good people who are going to be honest with you. So I think that might have been all the big highlights, maybe.
Yeah. Well, we started this episode talking about brand maturity, and I think it's obvious, and we talked about it at the very beginning, like there is no one way to describe it. There's no one way to chart the course of a brand. And I think what I'm realizing through part of this conversation is that part of the question is, how does a brand mature? A lot of it has to do with the maturity of the team, the philosophy of the team, the lessons and worldview that the marketing team has as well. And so, especially as you're in that early startup phase, I mean, there's so much learning that happens. It's neat to hear you kind of verbally process and explain how you guys have done what you've done, and distilled some of the lessons along the way.
Yeah, I guess, and you just touched on something else, like, be a great learner. Like, like, back to the skiing illustration, like, the thing that drives me absolutely nuts about my son, who's now 6, is when he thinks he's a know-it-all. No, Dad, I got to figure it out, man. I know how to do that. Like, that's so dangerous. And so be a great learner in life and in business, in marketing.
Yeah. Well, you summed it up better than I could. That's why this podcast exists. It's to encourage people to keep asking questions, keep trying to improve. And Jonathan, I appreciate you sharing some of those learnings and some of that journey with us. If there's anything else you want to leave our audience with, any other lasting thoughts? Do you want to provide some links where people can go find you and the company?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be a good marketer if I didn't try and sell something. No, Cole, thanks for having me on, man. This was honestly a lot of fun. Like, I love these dialogues. Like, these are great dialogues and stuff I try and surround myself with. And so thanks for having me on. This was a very thought-provoking conversation. I'm going to probably leave here and think about it for the next few hours. But yeah, if anybody's interested, turtleboxaudio.com is our website, and you can go check us out there. And you can ping us if you have any questions about our brand or our product, or if there's other marketing people out here that have questions. Hit Cole up, and he'll have good answers for you.
I don't have any answers, man. I just ask questions.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I wish you guys the best of luck as you continue down the fun journey of running a business.
Hey, thank you, sir. It's been good.
All right, take care.